very excited to talk to today and introduce you all to one of the leaders in the digital health ecosystem globally, Mr. Bill Taranto. Bill, how are you?
I'm doing great, Stan. Thank you for having me today. Usually I'm on the interviewee side, so I'm on the other side today.
Yeah, we thought we would flip it around a little bit today because of the fact that, it's incredible what the Merck Fund is doing, just seeing you all doing what you do every day. And we wanted to make sure that the audience got a chance to hear it directly from you and talk more about what's happening from your perspective, where you see things happening from your perspective, et cetera. So again, just to start off, for those folks that don't know about your background and don't know about the Merck Global Fund, if you could start off with a little bit of your background and a little bit about what the fund does.
Sure. My name is Bill Taranto, and I'm president of the Merck Global Health Innovation Fund, which is one of Merck's two funds. It's a digital and tech fund at Merck. We also have a life sciences fund that's called the Merck Research Labs Fund. But our fund is a $500 million evergreen fund that I said focuses on digital and technology. We're one of the largest, if not the largest, digital health investor where we deploy over 100 million a year. We're mostly a growth investor, focusing on Series C or later, but we'll do A and B rounds occasionally, but we don't do any startup or seed capital. The primary area that we focus is across pharma services. So if you think, if a pharma needs a service, that's kind of where we focus. So you think about R&D and clinical development. So things like AI and ML and drug discovery, could be target ID, new novel platforms, radiology, pathology, and of course, zero gravity clinical trials. We also focus on supply chain, manufacturing, and IT, but it's not the physicality of supply chain. It's more about the data. So you think in terms of, if Merck was going to build a control tower, almost like you see at an airport, how do we manage all the data around goods coming in and goods going out? So everything from fraud, trace and track, damaged goods, what's even the right way to ship something. We also still focus on the patient side. So we do a lot of caregiver support or, around things like monitoring, clinical decision support tools, care coordination. So anywhere that we can help the patient's journey. And then finally, we're still heavy investors in real world evidence and data, where we're trying to find globally access to data, but trying to understand insights and outcomes from that data. But again, the whole idea is around pharma services. We were established in 2010. Today, we have about 42 portfolio companies. And been pretty successful, both financially and strategically, to Merck.
It's incredible. I mean, just the breadth and depth of what you've done as well. I think just so many portfolio companies, 80 portfolio companies, and then the staggering amount of funds that you're deploying to help patients around the world, over $1 billion in the last 15 years, is just incredible. Let's talk a little bit about the Breakthrough Alliance. So obviously, this is a group that's been formed through a New York City Economic Development Corporation grant in 2015 that was awarded to the Healthcare Innovation Technology Lab, HitLab, which is, of course, the institution that I chair, and put together the Breakthrough Alliance with your help, Medidata, and a lot of other companies in the New York metropolitan area, Northwell, New York Presbyterian, Columbia Medical Center, et cetera, and Cornell. The idea was to help generate evidence to not only help populations in need, but also make sure that the institutions that are providing that kind of patient care and medicine understand what the best digital technology is to actually invest in and to actually purchase and deploy in their institutions. That institution now, the Breakthrough Alliance, New York City Economic Development Corporation, has grown tremendously over the last 6 years, and it's now going global. But you're chair of that organization, and your leadership has really accelerated the growth of the Breakthrough Alliance with New York City Economic Development Corporation. Tell us a little bit about the Breakthrough Alliance and the benefits that you see, and then what you do as chairman.
Sure. So, the reason I joined was twofold. One, I like the mission of HitLab, where they're actually helping organizations validate from a clinical perspective, whatever product or service that they have. And that's an important piece to growing a company. And I think people underestimate how important that is, especially in digital health. The other thing is, if you think about how healthcare works, it's all local and regional. It's about a community. And I was really interested in how you were thinking about, through the Breakthrough Alliance, building that community around patients, providers, payers, investors, entrepreneurs, anybody that's working within healthcare is part of that community. And the idea is, then how do we try then to grow that community beyond where we are, where we started, back in the early days in New York City. So most of my responsibilities, are helping advise, other leaders, yourself and your team, on how do we grow and expand not only what HitLab does, but what the Breakthrough Alliance does, and how we get, beyond the borders of, in the sense, the tri-state area, and grow, not only in the United States, but grow globally. And one of the things that we're going to be doing in about an hour from now is I'm going to be interviewing our new head or chair of the European Breakthrough, which is going to be a really exciting interview coming up in an hour with Laurent. But that's the whole idea, is how do we grow? So part of my responsibilities, I think, are helping you grow and expand. The other is, being a champion of both the Breakthrough and HitLab and communicating with my peers of why it's important, supporting you within your programs. You do like the upcoming November summit that we have, and then of course the big New York Digital Week that we're going to have in April of next year, being not only a sponsor but a speaker, but also bringing people into that community. So the real reason, I like the HitLab and the Breakthrough Alliance is it's all about the healthcare community. And the only way to grow and improve patient lives and really expand healthcare is through a community. And that's why I joined, and that's why I offer my leadership.
No, I really appreciate that, Bill. And it's been so impactful. I think that overall, when you look at the Breakthrough Alliance and its mission, how do you see this, and how do you compare it to other institutions that are out there, and how do you look at it as novel and relevant in terms of what it's doing and why people should join?
Well, I think the interesting thing about the Breakthrough and HitLab is a little different than most communities that are out there. There are other communities like Health Excel, but that's more outside the U.S. The Breakthrough bridges the gap between industry-leading healthcare companies and the promising digital health startups that help shape tomorrow. So we have an important role about helping build companies. Most of the other organizations that I might be a member of don't do that piece, right? We're trying to build healthcare organizations, and not only that, we're trying to bring that community together to work together, which is a little different than the other communities. The other communities are more about networking. Yes, Breakthrough Alliance and HitLab is a piece of it, is networking, but it's really about building healthcare and better healthcare in the communities in which we reside. And I think it's a fundamental difference that we see through HitLab and the Breakthrough that we don't see with other sort of community alliances. And that's, again, back to my opening statement, why I joined, because I think that's an important piece that people don't they underestimate the importance of building really good, solid healthcare companies and a solid healthcare community that can work in an integrated fashion within that community to build out better healthcare. And ultimately, our goal is to improve healthcare and save patient lives.
And for everyone that's watching the program now, do go to the chat box, check out Bill's LinkedIn profile. I just sent it to you over there. And again, just a tremendously generous person with time and comments and feedback for folks that are either starting digital health companies, that are in institutions that are trying to understand where digital is actually working, and you're looking for advice from someone who really knows the ecosystem. Contact Bill and get in touch with him. I'll also put it in my LinkedIn as well. If you have any questions or comments during the program today, just link in with me and message me there. That's the easiest way to get comments and questions in, since that's what I monitor the most. And Bill, just to wrap up, we've got a couple more minutes. The future of the Breakthrough Alliance and the future of digital health are so intertwined. You talked about need for evidence generation and efficient evidence generation, right? And when you see what happens at Breakthrough, no equity taken, no fees charged for the companies that are entered into the competition and are winning there. It's just an important thing to remember that the efficiency is critical. What's the vision of digital health for you, and what's the vision of evidence generation for helping digital health companies get going?
Ultimately, it's about making healthcare global. One of the things we're trying to do with the Breakthrough Alliance and HitLab is globalize it in a sense. And as I said, we're going to be interviewing Laurent in about an hour about our first step in expanding in Europe. But what I see happening over time is further expansion in the U.S., getting a chairman in Asia Pacific, a chairman in Latin America, where we're expanding this globally, because healthcare is a global problem, right? And a cancer patient in the United States is either similar or the same as a cancer patient in every other country. They need better care. They need the right care. And can we bring the right types of tools, and in this case, digital tools, as well as the ability to validate those tools through something like HitLab on a global basis? And the better we can bring, the community together from a global perspective, I think the better we'll be able to, 10 years from now, have better solutions for healthcare. And that's ultimately my vision of not only what we're trying to do with Breakthrough and with HitLab, is get it on a global basis, but build as much of the community as we can. Healthcare is just not a US problem, it's a global problem. And so the more we can get people to join on a global basis, that's what we're trying to do, is really expand this and look at healthcare more broadly.